Tony, in our MOOC, we've talked about the idea that Homo sapiens have ancient instincts with respect to water, and I know I've shared my paper on this with you. Does that resonate with you? I mean, what is it about water that makes it so difficult for people to conceptualize these water policy issues and find solutions?
Well, when we were in the savannah in 10,000, 11,000 years ago, and considering agriculture at the time, but before that we'd been hunter-gatherers and running around, eating brightly colored fruit. Imagine how since a strawberry or some delicious fruit is cool and exquisitely taste, even in our modern world where exquisite things are around everywhere, if you were a primitive person, this fresh, juicy, sweet, lovely thing must have been extraordinarily precious as an experience, as a physical experience. Unfortunately, for the humans, although they could, the fresh water for drinking was important, they didn't wash very much, so they didn't, it took thousands of years to get their heads around that. But so their relationship was, with 4 liters of water to drink, and then water wasn't in evidence at all, except they needed nearly the same amount of water as we do now, unless they were much smaller people, but some of them were, but some people in Northern Europe and elsewhere were just about the same size. So they would need 3 to 5 cubic meters of water per day. So the ancient instincts are to not notice water, not to think that it's there. So we still go to the supermarket and buy our food and don't realize that the farmers have put a lot of land and water into that food. So we're stuck in an ignorant position. Yeah.
And in my paper on this, I talked about privatization and how we have a visceral response in many situations to private sector getting involved, and yet in the food sector we have a private sector involved a lot, right? And they're the big users of water. So what's your takeaway message on sort of privatization and in general? Are we going to see more of it in the future in the municipal water sector, or less? Or
well, you've very neatly drawn attention to the fact that the public sector tends to be responsible for providing the 4 liters or a suitcase full of water, which is fortunately not a lot of water, and they do it. And we found over the centuries that a public system can work. The ancient instincts that it's our entitlement anyway. It's not very much. It's a bit more than 4 liters, but it's not very much, and therefore, the gods provide it. We're entitled to it. If anyone makes a living out of this is not right. So that's a very strong instinct, even in the United States, in places where capitalist solutions are normally regarded as important. But I understand in the United States, although there are lots of places are thinking about or have experimented with private sector water services, it's not moving very fast. It did move relatively fast in the 1990s, because partly in terms of the rest of the World Bank was projecting the privatization as a way of getting more money. So I said before there are 4 things, and one is money. And since the French companies had a lot of experience of raising money as well as installing water services across their dependencies, they were way ahead of the rest of the world in terms of competence. And so the pragmatic bank sort of invited them year after year to Washington to discuss this. And they lulled the companies into getting into Manila and Buenos Aires and other places where they made some very elementary market mistakes, especially to do with currency and local currency and dollars and so on. So the experiment was about a 5-year experiment, and at the end of that time, an awful lot of places were pulling out of the private sector way of doing things. On the other hand, in the way of human endeavor and organizations that are put in place. Sometimes they fail first time, but there's another attempt. And so the privatization trend is upwards still, but it isn't anything like that which was expected in the 1990s.
Do you think it's fair to say that we have ancient instincts about small water but not big water?
Yes. I was just going to say that yes, the determination to have water managed for domestic and industrial purposes, because it's roughly known about. But the other water, just as it was totally invisible to our predecessors running along across the savannah, looking for nice experiences, that they didn't connect water with that, nor do we, when we go into the supermarket, connect water with every item in that on the shelves. Yeah.